Good morning. Welcome on YouTube. We're glad you've joined us today. We're about to record episode 139 of the Family Meeting Podcast. Can you believe we've gone this long, babe?
It's insane that we've gone this long.
Yeah. What have we talked about every episode?
All kinds of stuff.
There's just so much. The thing is, with family, there's just so much that keeps coming up, right? As your family develops and grows, there's always things that we can learn. And here we are, episode 139 we're about to record.
So we're about to record 139. We have already recorded episode 140 that will air next week.
Yes, it's going to be
with our friends Josh and Heather Tice. They lead Southern Hills Church in Las Vegas, Nevada, California.
That came out of nowhere.
It's way too early. Las Vegas, Nevada. And we're excited to have a good conversation with them about longevity in marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, there was something that struck me, the one thing that came out of that, that I'm excited to share with you for next time, but they talked about their own personal vulnerability and their willingness and need to get counseling.
I loved that.
And they just weren't seeing eye to eye on a particular thing, and so they went to a counselor. And so it's not always like, hey, our marriage is going to fall apart unless we go see a counselor. Some people wait to that point.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's literally, we can't see eye to eye. We need somebody to help us talk this through. And so I just love that even though they lead a church, they were willing to do that. And it just shows the value in it.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be a great conversation next time.
It's going to be a great episode. Don't miss it.
We're talking about college today, and we're almost there. Our oldest is 17. She'll be 18 in November. She's entering her senior year. So
I don't like it.
We have a year to teach her these things. That's what we're saying.
Yes. Now, don't start just the year before they leave for college.
No.
I think we started a long time ago.
We did, but in order to make sure that she's got it.
Yeah, this is the last few months to make sure. Right.
All right, let's dive in. Gather around, everybody. It's time for a family meeting. The Family Meeting is a show that's all about family relationships. We're the Osterkamps. I'm Thomas. This is my wife, Lysandra.
Hello, and welcome to our family. Welcome to episode 139 of the Family Meeting Podcast. On today's episode, we're going to share 7 things your child needs to know before entering college.
Oh, man.
This is like, I feel like there's just a cloud over
I don't
this
want to
episode.
I don't really want to think about this. Who chose this topic?
I chose this topic. You know what this topic came from? This idea for this episode came from a post someone posted on social media. And their daughter is getting ready to go to college. And the father asked, what do you think is the most important thing for a child to know before they go to college? And there were lots and lots of answers. Very, very different answers. But it was a fascinating conversation. So I kind of followed it. And I thought, oh, that'd be a great podcast episode. And then I'm like, oh, my goodness, Catherine's like a year from going to college.
Right there.
We're coming up on this.
Well, and talk about sending your kids off to college. And it reminds me of next episode.
Oh, okay.
Episode 140, we have our friends Josh and Heather Tice on the podcast with us. They lead Southern Hills Church in Las Vegas, Nevada. And their son has gone off to college.
Yeah, they talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, and so... And we're right there. Like, it's so close to us. Catherine is our oldest, and she's entering her senior season. And so we're all there. We went to, our girls are involved in a homeschool group, and they had an end-of-the-year program to talk about the different things that they're learning. And they have the homeschool seniors walk, and their parents present them with their diploma.
It was so beautiful.
I got pretty emotional.
Me too.
Some friends in our church, their daughter walked, and I was just thinking about, like, man, next year this will be us. So we're right there. So we've been teaching the girls all along what they need to know, but we really have 1 year with Catherine to focus on some of these things, and so we wanted to be able to share some of these things with you guys.
That's right. Now, I Googled this, so I want to encourage all of our parents listening. Go ahead and Google, just like what does my kid need to know before they go to college, or whatever you want to Google. There are a lot of articles on this. I mean, there's just tons, so you can check those out online. And what we're doing is we're just sharing the ones that we feel are the top 7 for our list. This is our personal list that we are sharing with you. In fact, the first one that we're going to share was not on any list that I found online. So the first one is completely original to us as far as what I found online.
Yeah.
You know? And it's just our top priority. So what I would encourage you to do, though, is make your own list and figure out what's important for your children to know before they go to college, and don't wait until it's 2 months for them to leave to start teaching them, right? All along the way, we need to be starting this. Like, I mean,
yeah,
we really started training our girls as early as they could probably crawl and walk, and then the training continued and developed as they developed. And now here we are a year away, and we're down to the point where it really needs to be more comprehension checks and just seeing like, okay, where are you, Catherine? Where's your heart? What do you need to know? How do you feel? Are you confident in these different things?
And then we have our daughter Isabella a year after her, and then Abigail a year after her.
You know, having kids one right after another seemed like a great idea when we were having kids.
Now it's just going to be an emotional storm year after year after year.
So hard.
But all these things we're going to talk about are important. They may not be the top 7 for you, but they're important things for your kids to know as they get ready to move out on their own and step into that different season of life. So let's dive into number 1. And we put this as number 1 for a reason. We talk about this often on the podcast. We are Christians. We do share things that are helpful to whoever you are, whatever you believe, whatever your faith is, or whatever your faith is not. But we're very open and unapologetic about the fact that we are Christians. We're followers of Jesus.
Amen. Yeah.
And so the number 1 thing for us is making sure that they know their faith.
Yeah.
What is it that you truly believe? Because when our kids are young, you know, that we take them to church and we basically tell them like, hey, this is what we believe. And they kind of go along with it for the most part. Obviously you have kids that are all different. And so some, even from the time they're young, they just don't buy into it. And it's not really theirs. But a lot of times with kids, it's just they go along and they, like our girls, they all come to church. None of them fight us on going to church, and being a part of like youth group and all of that. They enjoy
actually
it.
Beg us to go.
So they enjoy it. They love it.
They do.
But as they get ready to leave the house, they have to decide what that faith is going to look like for them. So they have to answer the question of who is Jesus.
Yes.
And I just love that conversation that Jesus is having with his disciples one day. And I don't have the portion of scripture in front of me. But he's talking to them and he asks, hey, who does everybody say that I am? You know, kind of doing a survey. Who does everybody say that I am? And all these different answers, you know, some say you're Jeremiah, some say you're Isaiah, you know, one of the prophets or whatever. And then Jesus turns it around and he says, well, who do you say that I am?
Yeah.
Like, who am I to you, Peter, John, Matthew, Bartholomew? Hopefully no one, there's not. Is Bartholomew gone? Is that still a name?
Bartholomew? When was the last time I heard that name? It was probably on one of my old shows.
Maybe next podcast episode, not next because we got the interview, but the one after that we could do like, please don't name your kid Bartholomew.
Babe, the one after that is the sex Q&A.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, we already have that planned. We've got sex questions we got to answer, so we can't do it then.
But all right, so I'll just plug it in here. It'll be a short episode. Don't name your kid Bartholomew. If you did, please rename them.
I was going to say, babe, you know that there's some sweet mama out there who's like, oh, that's my son.
The only exception for the rule would be if you nickname them Barth Vader.
Thomas.
Like, no, like Darth, but it's Barth.
Barth Vader.
Yeah, so I would allow it.
Listen, he offends people all the time. If he offends you, I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
I
at
want
least
to
you don't have to live
apologize
with
for
me.
Thomas. Yeah, for real. You guys should feel sorry for me right now. So,
But Jesus turns it around on them and says, "Hey, who am I to you?" And that's what we have to do with our kids.
Yes.
Now, hopefully you've been doing that, as they start to be able to think and process things for themselves. But really now is the time to help them really solidify what it is that they believe. So, what is the way of salvation? What's the Bible?
And I feel like these things that you're talking about that they should know their faith. One thing I want to encourage our parents, this is something we're trying to do here in our home, is maybe they can tell you who Jesus is. Maybe they can tell you how they believe salvation is not earned, but how salvation is achieved through Jesus alone, belief in him. Maybe they can tell you what the Bible is. But what we want to make sure that our kids can do is they can go to the Bible and say why they believe that Jesus is Jesus and he is the Son of God.
Yeah.
Why they believe that salvation is through faith in Jesus and him alone and not by works or not by anything else. And so that's one of the key things that we are trying to make sure that our children know, because a lot of what we were taught was like, this is the way, don't question.
Yeah.
Don't question. And because I said so. There was a lot of because I said so. I don't think either of us ever say that. I don't know that we've ever said that to our kids, because I said so.
No.
We don't like that. What we do is we say, good question. Here's why. And we want them to be able to go to the Word of God on their own. And they also need to be able to go to the Word of God when they are in school. Because guess what? They're going to have some people who are like, oh my goodness, why are you going to church? Why do you have your Bible in this dorm room or whatever? And we want them to be able to say why. And we want the why to come from the Word of God, not because my mom said, so that's another thing that we're trying to teach them.
And we're reminded of what it tells us in 1 Peter 3:15. But in your hearts, honor Christ the Lord as holy. Now, notice this next part. Always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you. Yet do it with gentleness and respect. And so Peter just lets them know, hey, you need to always be ready to tell people why do you believe what you believe? Why are you doing this instead of doing that? Or why don't you get involved with this even though everybody else is getting involved with this? So that's part of our job as parents, is to make sure that our children are ready with that defense. And you say, well, that's why I take them to youth group, or that's why I take them to church, is so that they can teach them. No, listen, taking them to church and being a part of a youth group and whatever else is a great part to supplement your teaching. What your kids will get in an hour or two a week at church is not going to be enough.
Oh, no.
So that they are ready to defend what they believe as they step out into the world on their own. You as their parent, me as my daughter's parent, I have the primary responsibility for their spiritual growth. And so we can't sublet that. We can't sublease it. We can't whatever. I don't know what word with sub I'm trying to figure out. But you can't hand that off to somebody else and say, well, they're just going to let them take care of it and they're responsible for it. They're responsible for what they teach and preach and making sure that you are equipped to do it. But it's your responsibility as a parent to teach your children that. And so that's why we put it number one.
Yes.
Because our faith, or lack of it, is the basis for the things that we do in life. Our sense of morality and all that is based upon what we believe. And so if we get that right, then that will have a trickle-down effect into these other 6 things that we're going to talk about.
That's right. And before we move on, there is another aspect of this, they need to know their faith that I want to talk about. And that is the importance of church. And you mentioned a little bit just a second ago that having them in church, having them in youth group and all that is great. And that it, yes, hopefully they're going to be learning and growing in their faith there. It's ultimately our job as parents. But I think about these college kids who leave home and they go away. One thing that I want to instill in my daughters is the importance of finding a church home wherever they go. Because we need each other. We need each other so badly, that accountability, that encouragement, that continued growth. And so that is one aspect of this knowing your faith that we are trying to instill in our daughters is no matter where you go, you need to find a church home. And that can be something that you help them do. You know, as you're getting them settled in wherever they're going, help them to find a church home that they can call their own, where they can find the good friendships. Because listen, your kids are going to find friends at college. What kind of friends do you want them to be? And not saying that all kids who go to church are good friends, right? But let's put them in the right spot. Let's help them to find good Christian friends, a good community who can support them and be with them, because this is that transition where we're not there all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think that's another aspect of faith, you know. Faith ultimately is that relationship with God, but finding a church family is such a help there.
So that's number 1 is teaching them their faith. All right, number 2 is safety.
Teaching them safety. They got to know safety. This is so important. We're raising 4 daughters. And it's interesting because Thomas will sometimes send all 5 of us, all of us girls. We have like a group chat in text for the 6 of us. And he'll send us like an article about knowing your surroundings, or like things to think about when, you know, you're walking alone or whatever.
Well, and it's just a matter of fact that women have to think more about safety than men do. Mm-hmm. That's just the nature of it.
Yeah.
And so trying to make sure that my girls are prepared, and I do this if I'm just walking in a parking lot. If I see a lady by herself out somewhere, I just notice what's going on around her. I don't know if it's the fact that I have daughters or what, but I'm just concerned with people's safety, especially ladies, if they're by themselves, because they have to think about things that I as a man don't think about. I don't ever think about somebody coming up and like trying to grab or kidnap me. I've never thought of that one time.
Oh, I think about that.
And it's just something that ladies, you have to deal with. So
we
want to make sure that, obviously I want to make sure my wife is safe in what she's doing, but under helping our daughters, because they've had their dad there their whole life to watch out for them. Well, I've got to make sure before they leave that they know how to, the best of their ability, watch out for themselves.
That's right. So just yesterday we went to the grocery store and you were gone. I don't know. It was just the 5 of us girls. And we got out of the car and there was a man in the parking lot standing 2 cars down from us, leaning against his car, absolutely staring at us. Like just wouldn't take his eyes off. And when it caught my eye, like, oh, there's somebody staring at us. And when I looked over, he didn't even do that thing where he looked away. Like, he made eye contact with me and continued to stare me down. And I was like, very uncomfortable. Of course, locked the door, looking at all my girls, making sure they're in front of me. We're walking away from him. And I'm thinking in my mind, when we come out of the store, I'm going to be watching for this guy. And as we're walking in the store, we're getting a little bit further away from him. And I said, girls, did you notice anything that made you uncomfortable as we were getting out of the car? And they were like, yeah, that guy. What was it, that guy?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm very proud of you that you noticed that. Very good. You need to be aware of your surroundings. And we had the conversation again about being aware of your surroundings.
Well, and it's just one of those things, like, especially walking through a parking lot, whether you're going into the store or out of the store, I tell them, don't be on your cell phone. Do not have your head down. You need to have your head up. You need to look around. You need to know who is around you at all times. If you pull up somewhere, like say, for instance, you pulled up in this grocery store parking lot yesterday, and you see this guy right away before you get out of the car. If you're uncomfortable, don't get out of the car.
Right.
Like, either leave the parking lot, leave the store, drive away. Like, just make sure you know your surroundings. Mm-hmm. And along this line, sometimes as you're going out, like, this is something that people do to try to take advantage of especially women who are by themselves. They'll put something on your windshield. So a piece of paper or something, sometimes even money, to get you to look away from, like, under your surroundings, be distracted with whatever it is, and you go to get that off of there, and sometimes they will grab people that way.
It's such a scary world we live in. And this is I think what is really tricky, I guess, is finding this balance. And this is where the Holy Spirit comes in, and we pray and we ask God to lead us to the right balance between fear and faith, right? Like, we need to teach our kids that this is a reality. Like, sex trafficking is a reality, kidnapping is a reality, and all of these things, rape, all this negative stuff is a reality. But yet we don't want to live with our minds continuously consumed by that reality. We just have to understand it and have a balance of like wisdom and faith. And that's tricky, but that's something that is taught. It's not real natural.
And so here's what we teach them. You get out of the car, you have your cell phone in your hand, you make sure that you know that car is locked and you can see that it's locked. And then you go in the store. When you come out, you get to that door, you unlock it, you get in, you lock the door. Mm-hmm. Then and only then are you distracted by whatever, if you got to check text or phone call or whatever else. But make sure you have your phone in your hand so that if you need to call, you can call. But
that's right. So I just saw a meme on Facebook the other day that I thought was so funny. So we just moved to Florida a year and a half ago. And the meme was, one of the best things about living in Florida is, no one's ever going to be waiting in your car to kill you.
Yeah, that's true. It's way too hot. They would never sit in there.
Hot. They would die. You'd get in and they'd be dead, so you'd be fine. But things to think about are like, making sure they have flashlights or cell phones always with them, having mace with them. This is one thing, safety in numbers when they go out. But here's the other thing to think about is social media safety. And make sure that you have trained them and taught them about the ways that predators go after people on social media. They are smart about it, unfortunately. And maybe you are sitting here and you're like, I don't know how people go after people on social media. You need to research that. You need to look on that. And actually, that might be a very good episode someday to really dig into the social media dangers.
Perverts on the internet. That could be it.
That's the perfect episode title. But here's one verse that I want to leave with you. This is one verse that I think is very good to teach our kids too. Psalm 4:8. In peace, I will both lie me down and sleep. For you alone, O Lord, make me dwell in safety. Because ultimately, like we talked about faith over fear, in the end, our trust is in the Lord. Yeah, we want to have wisdom. We want to understand our surroundings and understand the dangers. But in the end, we have to trust the Lord for our safety. And when we trust the Lord for our safety, we can lay down and we can sleep in peace, knowing that He is our protector.
Yeah, and so it's important. Yeah, obviously we trust God first and foremost, but we also want to use wisdom. Mm-hmm. One last thing that I wanted to touch on this area before we jump to number 3. And that is, we've talked about locking your doors in the car, but locking your doors at the house.
Yes.
So because of our stage of life, our girls are more often than not either the last ones in the house, especially at night.
Because we go to bed at like 8:30.
Definitely the last ones up. And so I will often ask them, hey, did you lock the doors? Did you lock the doors? And typically our door, if we're in the house, the doors are locked. And so making sure them just to think through it, because the days, and maybe some of you are in these tiny little towns that you still do this. The days of just like leaving your house unlocked, your door unlocked should be long gone.
Yeah.
If you're still not locking your doors,
you remember?
I don't know.
Remember when we first got together and you came to Walker, Iowa, which was like 700 people, and you were like, "Oh, don't you want to lock the door?" We came inside. Don't you want to lock the door? I was like, "Lock the door? Why?" You were like, "You don't lock your doors?" I was like, "Why would we lock our doors? How would we get in?" Like, I don't even know if I had a house key. I'm not kidding. I don't think I had a house key. But Thomas, of course, grew up in the downtown of our city in Cedar Rapids, and he thought I was insane.
Where it wasn't just, hey, lock your doors at night. It was, if you walk through that door, you lock it behind you.
Yeah, I had to get used to that at your house. So
yeah.
Now I'm a door locker. So, all right, let's look at number 3, babe.
Number 3.
This is one that I'm still training Thomas on, but go ahead, honey.
Yeah.
What is number 3?
I'm trying. Be a good roommate.
Huh. Interesting.
I am a great stinking roommate. I'll tell you that right now.
I love living with you.
How many times have you had to fill the ice maker up with water?
Like 2.
Yeah.
You're so good. You're so amazing.
I think about it. But when I think about being a good roommate, it reminds me of this verse in Romans 12, verse number 18. And the first pastor that I worked for used to say this all the time. I don't know if it was his favorite verse, but it was at the top. If possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all men. And so I like that the way that verse describes it. As far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. So as on your end, do everything you can do to be at peace with people. And I think that's vitally important as you learn to live with people. And we're in a place where our girls have always had a roommate. Most of the time it's been by choice. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think, well, so we're recording this early in the morning. Our kids are still sleeping. I'm pretty sure they're all in the same room.
Yeah. Even though they have their own rooms.
Yeah.
So,
but they've had roommates for a while. But for some of your kids, they may not have ever had a roommate. And so teaching them how to be a good roommate is going to take a little more work. We're constantly talking about this all the time.
Yes.
Some of them are pretty good roommates. We have some that they got some things to learn.
You're trying to figure out how to say this nicely.
They have some things to learn in this area. I'll put it that way. But what about this? Here, starting with just this.
Okay.
They need to know how to clean their room. Mm-hmm. I feel, I'm talking about this now, right? There are some things that I didn't learn that I should have probably learned before I went off to college, being a good roommate.
What? Give me one thing.
So I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but this fits right here with what we're talking about being a good roommate. By the way, talking about being a roommate, my best friend today that I'm not married to, was my roommate my freshman year in college.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ryan. So I'm going to go see him in a couple days.
Yeah.
But
that's something to think about.
I work grounds crew in hot Florida. Ugh. And I didn't have a lot of money at college.
You had no money.
And so you go to do laundry and it costs money. And I'm just like, there's certain things that I was like, this seems like such a waste to wash my work jeans. Because they're just going to get dirty the very next day. So I'm like, it felt like throwing money away for me. It was not important to me. But it was affecting my roommates. Let's put it that way. Those jeans, because of the dirt and the sweat in the Florida heat, could probably stand up by themselves. And I'm not joking. I'm not making, sometimes those socks could probably stand up by themselves. I think the jeans literally could.
I'm really grossed out right now. My stomach hurts.
But see, that's one of those things where it's like, that was not a good roommate.
Right.
That was not me thinking of others. That was me thinking of myself. And like, hey, I don't want to waste money on this.
Do you feel like you were really taught how to be a good roommate, or that was ever brought up?
I don't know. I don't remember. It's so long ago. I don't remember. Obviously, I live with my brother, so
he was
I don't think
too.
I'm trying to think if I ever had my own room. But
weren't you boys were both just disgusting together, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you guys
totally.
You guys were equally disgusting, in my opinion.
We probably still are equally disgusting.
Shout out to Chris. Love you, brother.
Yeah. My partner in filth.
2 pigs in the sty.
So, but teaching them how to clean their own room and be respectful in that way.
Okay, how about this? Clean a bathroom. A lot of these dorms have shared bathrooms.
Yep.
It depends on which one you're in and everything, but that's something they should know how to do. How do you clean a shower? I mean, I know that some of you mamas are so loving and you're beautiful and you have such a sweet spirit. You want to clean your kids' bathroom for them all the time. I don't understand that. I want my kids to clean their own bathroom.
Yeah.
But if that's you, maybe it's time to let them have a turn to clean the bathroom and teach them how to do that.
Well, and where we went to school, it wasn't like I could leave my room or my bathroom totally filthy, because we had room check every day.
That is
so
good.
like things had to be at least organized and stuff, and they would check the bathrooms and showers and stuff like that. And then I forget how, I don't know if it was once a quarter, something like that, where they would have, it was literally called white glove.
Right.
And there was a Saturday where they would go around and everything had to be absolutely just spotless. But it really was in college where I learned how to scrub a shower and all those things.
You know why they had to do the whole white glove and room check every day?
Because of people like me.
Yeah. They had to protect clean people from dirty people.
Totally.
Yeah.
I get it.
Okay. All right. They just need to learn how to like simply pick up after themselves, how to do their laundry. They need to be told you have to wash your jeans when you are sweaty and disgusting and digging holes in the ground.
Yeah.
They have to be
in the
taught
Florida,
that.
hot Florida sun.
Okay. Do they know how to do laundry, whether it's, at a laundromat or wherever else? They need to be taught how to respect other people's stuff.
Yeah.
Don't touch your roommate's stuff. Don't mess with it and whatnot. And then this last one.
Handle conflict.
This is important.
How to handle conflict. This, as a parent, feels like something we're teaching from the time that they're tiny. Like we talked about in the opening episode. Maybe this is your first time hearing this podcast. We have 4 daughters, and basically the first 3, it was like a water slide, one right after another.
Ew.
And I'm just saying, they were so close together. Boom, 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 boom. And so then Lysandra had to have an emergency C-section with a 3rd, and so the 4th came just a little bit later. And it shut down the ride for a while.
Shut up. All right, you are no longer allowed to have turns to talk on this podcast. I'll take it from here.
But it's felt like from the time that they were born, like we've been teaching them this whole conflict thing. We still deal with it all the time.
Absolutely.
But it's by the time they leave at 18, they need to figure out how to handle it for themselves. And I think about Matthew chapter number 18, and it's given to us to help us learn how to deal with conflict. How do you do that? And Jesus tells us in verse number 15, if your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. And so if somebody offends you, somebody does something, don't just sit there and be angry and wait for them to figure it out for themselves and come apologize. Jesus says if somebody does something against you, you are the one who has the responsibility to go and say, hey, I don't know if you realize this, but when you said this the other day, like that really hurt my feelings. Or when you did this, it's really bothered me since then. And obviously you need to speak in the right manner and all those sorts of things. But have that responsibility to go to them. And he literally says, if he listens to you, you've gained your brother, and you've solved the problem right there. And most issues can be solved right there.
Yeah, that's true.
It's very rare when a situation can't be resolved by just talking it out with the other person in the right spirit. Now, if you're coming all heated, and we have podcast episodes on this, if you're coming in all hot and heated, you're probably not going to resolve the situation. You're going to make it worse. So having the right mindset and the right words. But he says, hey, if he doesn't want to hear you, doesn't want to take responsibility or whatever else, hey, take somebody, take a witness, take somebody else along that can corroborate what you're saying. Because a lot of times we do things and we say things that we didn't mean to.
Right.
Like we don't know we hurt somebody's feelings. I've done that plenty of times. You sit and listen to the podcast for more than 5 minutes and you'll know he's probably offended some people with some things that he's said before.
Yeah.
So then of course it progresses to the point where maybe they just aren't willing to own it and whatever else, and you take it to your local congregation of believers. But our kids need to know what are the process. How do we work through this? And part of it may just be, you know what, they may never apologize for what they did, and we've got to learn to just forgive and to move on with life and not let that thing dominate and control us. But Our kids need to know, hey, how do we handle conflict? That's all part of being a good roommate.
It is.
Because as you live in close quarters with people, you're going to do things, you're going to say things, there's just going to be conflict. That happens in relationships. So there's going to be issues with roommates. And I've had it. Ryan is my best friend. We've had plenty of conflict over the years. And we're still best friends. We still would do anything for each other. Mm-hmm. And he would probably remember more than I about some of the conflicts, but you got to learn how to deal with those things. Part of the conflicts was just probably me being dirty.
I'm sure.
Not doing my laundry. So
I know that's been some of our conflicts.
Yes, it has. I'm better than I was.
You're amazing now. I feel like you've come so
You
far.
heard it here first. I'm amazing.
You are amazing. Okay, number 4. They need to know how to handle money.
Oh, yeah.
This is so important. They need to know things like how to open a bank account, how to create a budget, which that's kind of the easy part of budgeting, is creating the budget. The difficult part of budgeting is living on that budget.
Yeah.
And living within your means and only spending money that you have, and not all the money you have and all of that. They need to learn how to grocery shop and price compare and things like that. Where should they grocery shop and all of that kind of thing. And then this is something we've taught our kids since they were teeny tiny, and that is to tithe, save, and spend. So tithe, that word simply means 10%, and we believe that we give 10% at the very minimum to
At
God.
the minimum, yeah. We do more of that personally, but at the minimum.
That's at the minimum. Then we give more above and beyond that. But we're teaching them at the very least to start at the minimum. So they know any money that they get, anything that comes in, first tithe comes out of that, and that's given to God. Then they learn to save, and that's a percentage as well. They save a certain percent, and then the rest they can spend if they want to. I'm so pleased to say that most of the time our girls save above the percentage that we've asked them to save.
Yeah, because kind of what we had started off with, and you'll have to correct me if the percentages have changed, but I remember when we first started off, it was like you tithe 10%, you save 10%, and you have 80% to live on.
That is exactly what we had at the beginning, and I begged you to change that. Do you remember?
Well, they don't have actual expenses like bills, so
No.
that save percentage when they're young can be a lot higher.
So we have episodes on this podcast about finances, and we're not going to go deep into this, but Thomas and I are different people. I'm a saver, he's a spender in general, and I would say that both of us, since being married 20 years, have both come more towards each other in that. Like,
Oh, most definitely.
you save way more than you ever did, and I spend more than
I
ever
really
did.
do. In fact, I actually found cash in my back pocket.
Really?
I've got cash in my back pocket right now.
Congratulations.
Should we see how much it is?
Yeah, let's see. Count it up, baby. You gonna take me out to breakfast after this episode?
I might. I've got...
Oh.
I don't even know where it came from. I've got like 30, 40, $1 or $2 here.
Fantastic.
I've been saving it for who knows how long. Because guess what? I haven't washed these jeans in ages. I'm just kidding. You do my laundry.
I know I do your laundry. Listen, saving is different than forgetting your money.
Hey, that's one way to save it.
You lost your money. You didn't save it. You lost it and found it later. You're like, I've been saving this for 3 months. Okay. So anyway, because I'm the saver by nature and he's the spender by nature, when we were deciding the percentages, I'm the fun killer, as we've talked about many times on this podcast.
Yeah.
I was like, tithe 10%, and I was like, save 40%.
Oh my gosh,
And they can
that's
spend
right.
the rest. And I tried to convince you. I was like, honey, they have no expenses. Everything that they don't save, they're just going to blow on candy. You know, like we need to have a much bigger save category. And you won that battle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they do. They on their own save more than
They
10%.
do. Yes.
But it helps them to have that percentage in their mind as a base, so that they learn how to budget properly and use that 80% for what they need to use it for.
That's right. So all of the things that we want to teach them about finances come down to this verse right here. This verse. Psalm 24:1. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof, the world and all those who dwell therein. Listen, this is what we teach them. everything is God's already.
Right.
Every dime that you earn, every penny that you have, everything, material item that you have is already God's. So you look at it as his and you use it for him. And you are a good steward of this stuff that is ultimately his. You are a steward. So be careful with how you spend your money. And that's at the heart of what we teach them on finances.
Oh, I'm going to say one more thing about finances, and this will segue into number 5, because we live in a digital society now. So whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not, I like it because it's convenient.
Yeah.
But I just found out about this literally yesterday.
Okay.
So many of you are familiar with Venmo and Cash App and all that kind of stuff, so you can digitally pay. Venmo actually, I don't know if it's out yet or if it's coming out.
Okay.
But they have a kids, so you can link up a kids account, so that rather than giving your kid $20 to go to the movies or whatever, you can literally just drop $20 in their own Venmo account. And then you as a parent can control, like you can shut it off, you can control who sees it and all those sorts of things.
And you can see where every penny went.
Exactly. And so then it's it's another way to teach them how in the digital age to be able to handle their finances too, because the more we just go on with time, the more it's going to be. Obviously we know from scripture, and we're not going to dive into all the theological ramifications of whatever else, but it appears that it's all going to move digital anyway. So making sure that they know how to, navigate, the digital aspect of finances. But this segues into number 5, and that is how to handle social media. And this is all over the news right now, because lawmakers are coming to the understanding, maybe a lot slower than some of us, of the damage that social media does to kids. And we've got a 12-year-old in the house, and she's often asking to get certain apps or this or that, whether it's Spotify. She wants Spotify. Okay, I don't have a problem with that. Let's go to set it up. Got to be 13. Okay, so no Spotify for you. Pinterest. She wanted Pinterest the other day, which of all the social media things, Pinterest, it's not my thing, but I understand the value of it. So she texts me and says, "Hey, Mom said it's okay if I get Pinterest. What do you think?" And I said, "Well, my first question, what's the age limit on it?" And and I had no idea. I assumed it was 13 because most of them are. And it was 13. So, hey, not right now because you're 12. Some of you parents navigated that, and that's between you and God and Mark Zuckerberg. But they're coming and they're understanding, okay, the damage that it's doing psychologically and emotionally to kids. It's unhealthy.
Right.
Now, for us, and we've talked about this in other episodes, for us, the age we've told our kids is you can get social media when you're 16. In fact, when Catherine, our firstborn, turned 16, that was part of the literal day of her 16th birthday, setting up a Facebook account for her and Instagram. And you know what? She
hasn't signed into them.
She got her new phone and hasn't even signed into them, and it's been a while. So she's not concerned about it. Our second-born Isabella turned 16, and I said, "Hey, you want to set up social media accounts?" "No, I'm not really interested in that."
She said, "Do I have to?"
Yeah, she's like, "I'm not really interested." I'm like, "That's fine. Eventually, we'll get her on social media so we can have an opportunity to teach and train her with it."
Yeah,
and
before
maybe
she's out on her own.
And so at least I've had some teaching and training. If you never want to open it, that's up to you. But at least she's had some help with it. But to say that, all that to say this: social media is not going anywhere. We need to teach our kids how to use it, and you need to figure out the right age that they can handle it. And you can set limits as a parent on how often they're on it and whatever else, and who can be their friend. But all of that is part of the training. But to think about it, and this is something we tell our girls. We said it with phones and text messages, but we also say it with social media. Whatever you post, once you push post, it doesn't belong to you anymore. It literally belongs to the world, and it is out there forever. So everything you post could prevent you from getting hired someday. It could keep you from getting the job that you want. The stupid stuff you post in college could haunt them for a lifetime. So using wisdom, just like you would with the things that you say, we teach them, hey, use wisdom with your words. Use wisdom if you're sending that text. And we said this with pictures, like, hey, if you're going to text somebody a picture, it doesn't belong to you anymore. So you think long and hard before you push send. And the same is true on social media. So I think about what James 1:5 tells us, because maybe we're not sure. Should I really post this? Should I really send this? Should I really say this?
Yeah.
And James wrote this: if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given him. In other words, if you aren't sure and you need wisdom, we can ask God, and he will very freely give it to us. And I think this is probably my most claimed promise in the entire Bible.
Amen. Yeah.
My most claimed promise from God is, hey, God, you said you'd give wisdom. I really need it right now. And so teaching them in the area of social media is going to be important for them, because like we said, what they do on social media, what they do online could haunt them for the rest of their lives.
That's right. They need to know personal health skills and things like how to go to the doctor or make the appointment for the doctor. They need to understand that you have to have your insurance card and other information that you need in order to get into the doctor. How to call out sick from work or class.
When you talk about the insurance stuff, you may want to teach me about all that.
Poor Thomas. He went right from his mama to me.
Yeah.
His mama handled all that stuff, and now I handle all of it. He never learned.
If something happens to you, I will literally die.
Okay, guys, I have a file in our safe upstairs entitled Information for When I Die. And it is for Thomas, so that when I die, because I know I'm sure going to die before you.
I don't think so. People who know us know that isn't true. They could look at the two of us and know.
You will have all the information you need to handle insurance. You will have the phone numbers.
The information is somewhere I can get to.
Yes, but if I try to teach you right now, you won't listen to me anyway.
Wait a minute.
I know you well enough.
How am I going to get in the safe?
You have a key. Do you know where your key is to the safe? Oh, honey.
Eesh.
Okay, the key is on my keyring. I'll show you what it looks like.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So teach your husband also while you're at it, ladies. We need it. Or some of you guys, teach your wives about the finances.
Yeah, whichever way it goes. Okay, but they need to learn how to call out sick.
When you're actually sick.
When you're actually
Did you ever do this? Did you ever call in sick when you weren't sick?
Absolutely not. No, I've never done that.
Yeah, me neither.
You totally have. I know you well enough. I'm sure that you did.
I'm planning to do it this Sunday.
Oh, crap.
Oh, no, I said it on the air. Oh, no.
You are not. No, I never did that. Mm-mm.
I totally did more than once.
Wow. I can't imagine. Shame on you.
You can't imagine me doing that, really?
I mean, I can't imagine doing it. Like, I can't
yourself.
Imagine,
okay,
yeah,
I was going to say,
I can't imagine like wanting anything bad enough to do that. Shame. Okay.
Sleep?
Did you call out sick to sleep? Did you really, babe?
I had to be there at 7 a.m. What do you want from me?
Now you go to the gym every morning at like 5.
Yeah. Well, now I'm an adult.
Yeah. You've grown up a lot. It's been nice. Okay. We got to wrap this up, baby. We're coming to the end. Other things that they need about their personal health. They need to know how to eat healthy. Okay. Don't let them just go and live on ramen in college. I know that's what Thomas did.
I could have had other food, but
but you chose not to, and that's the point.
Well, it was fast for one thing, and I didn't have to be in a crowded room.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe they need to learn to cook and not eat out. They need to learn exercise is important. How to handle stress, because college can be very stressful. Maybe you want to teach them the vitamins they need to take. Listen, make sure that your college student understands how important sleep is. It's important to have relaxation time. Fun versus work balance. These are the kinds of things. Right in line with personal health skills is the dangers of premarital sex and helping them to understand all of that. Like, that should be a conversation you have with your kids.
Yeah, most definitely.
It should be candid, open, and you just need to talk about it. So don't be weird and all uncomfortable and stuff, or just go ahead and be as weird as you possibly can to like break down the walls and just talk weird about it if you've got to. But we need to help them understand the dangers there. 1 Thessalonians 4:3-4, for this is the will of God, even your sanctification, that you abstain from sexual immorality, that each one of you know how to control his own body in holiness and honor. And there is this aspect of controlling your body that they need to understand before they're like set free and fly the coop. It's not just, I mean, this verse in this context is absolutely talking about sexual immorality.
Yes.
It's very clear. But we can learn something else from this verse as well. We are to control our own body, and that means the things that we eat, the things that we, how we exercise, the sleep, the food we put into our body. All of that stuff is about self-control and controlling what we do with our body, and that's something that they need to know before they're set free.
Well, and self-control is one of the fruit of the Spirit,
Amen.
and so we are expected in all areas. Like you mentioned, this verse is specifically talking about sex. That we should not let our sexual desires control us and have dominion over us. But it is an overarching biblical principle that we live lives of self-control. Mm-hmm. So we're going to get down. Here's number 7.
Okay.
And I find it very hilarious that I am the one who is giving number 7.
Yeah, this is fascinating. Go ahead, babe.
It's car maintenance. Because I don't know much. So here's my expectations for our girls. You need to at least know what I know when it comes to car.
So
that's the
nothing?
bare minimum. It's the bare minimum.
You have changed so many flat tires for us.
I
As
have.
all 5 of us girls sat in the car, you went out there and changed flat tires in the rain or whatever else. Yeah.
So that's one of the things they need to know how to do. Mm-hmm. Before they leave the house, I'm going to take them through the process and make them physically do it themselves.
Yes.
How to change a flat tire.
Mm-hmm. Do you know that I don't know how to change a flat tire?
You don't need to. You have me.
Exactly. My dad did it for me when I was, obviously in his house. I got married at 18 and moved in with you, and you've been changing my flats ever since then. So,
yeah. So
I never needed to learn.
I
this
come
one.
rescue her if she needs it. But as they go out on their own and they head to college, especially if they're nowhere near me, I may not be able to just rush right over.
Mm-hmm.
And so making sure that they're able to change the flat tire on their own. They know how to jump. Maybe their battery's dead. Well, how do I jump a car?
You do know how to do that.
I do know how to do that. And so that's something that our kids need to know how to do. And make sure you've got your own set of jumper cables.
Yes.
I encourage people to get the longest ones they can because you're not always parked in a way that's best to be able to do that. Make sure they understand how important it is to get oil changes regularly. Mm-hmm. Hey, if something doesn't sound right, have it checked out. Mm-hmm. That they know how to call for help. How do you call for a tow truck? Mm-hmm. How do you do that? What about this? How to drive safely?
Right.
It seems like, I don't know. It seems like people in Palm Coast where we live are a lot more aggressive and angry than they are in Iowa.
Behind the wheel.
Behind the wheel, yes.
Not in general, but when they're behind the wheel, it's like, whoa, why are you so angry all the time?
Yeah. Like the second, this happened to me just the other day, the second the light turns green, they lay on their horn behind you.
Yeah, and there wasn't even enough time to like take your foot off the gas, the brake to put it on the gas.
And I'm just
they
like,
were already honking.
Yo,
it's like, whoa,
chill out. First of all, we live in a beach community. Like just chill out a little bit.
Get your flip flops on and chill, man.
But teaching them how to drive safely. So one of the things I've been doing with Isabella is having her drive home from the gym so she can get that practice in. And so we're talking about, okay, the safe things to do to be a defensive driver and to just be able to drive safely. Unlike a certain daughter's boyfriend who I'm calling out right now, who is not such a safe driver at this point.
He drove me somewhere 2 days ago or whatever, and he did a very, very nice job. I was like, all right, we want to all be alive when we get there.
Yes.
So we're going to drive like we're going to stay alive.
And this was one of the things I talked to him about is you need to pretend that my daughter is in the car every time you drive somewhere.
Yeah.
Because
or you're never going to drive her anywhere.
You're never going to drive her anywhere. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But teaching them how to drive safely.
Yes. So these are the things that we have chosen to put on our list for the 7 things we believe our children need to know before that they go to college. And of course, this list could go on and on and on.
Oh, yeah.
There are so many other things out there. And we didn't even put any of like the study skills and like the actual academic stuff, because hopefully you've already taught them that in their schooling.
If they're getting to go to college, you've probably done that.
Yes, most likely that's already there. They know how to write a research paper or whatever else. But these are the kind of more so life skills that we mentioned today. So make your own list, right?
Yep. And so we want to end with family meeting tonight and just discuss the transition of college with your kids. You know, depending on how close you are to that age, or maybe it's just a conversation, if your kids are young, conversation you need to have with your spouse about, okay, I know my child is only 3 right now. But you're going to turn around and they're going to be there. So true. I was literally talking with a dad about this on Monday at our men's night out. He is, he's around my age, but he's got an 11-month-old. And it's their only child. Sweet daughter, beautiful daughter, baby girl. And we were talking about the fact, like, man, I remember when my kids were there, and your daughter's just getting into that age where I had so much fun with our kids, but now I turned around and here we are. Yeah. So you may not be there yet as far as literally teaching them the things they need to know, but you're at a point where, hey, let's have a conversation about what do we think they need to know by then. Because once you understand what they need to know, you can give them the appropriate guidance they need at each and every age, so that when they're there, you've taught them. Mm-hmm. You've taught them everything they need to know. So,
all right. Well, thank you for joining us today. We ask that you would go and subscribe to the Family Meeting Podcast from your favorite podcast provider. And if you found this information to be helpful, share this episode on social media and invite your friends and family to listen with you.
To find more content and information Lysandra and I provide, you can go to our website, familymeeting.org. Or you can shoot us an email at info@familymeeting.org. If you'd like to shoot us a text or call us, you can send a voice message at 904-257-3062, and you could have your question literally played and answered on the air. So share your story with us.
Very cool. And we want to invite you to join us for our next family meeting, as we have 2 very special guests on the show with us. Next week, we'll interview Josh and Heather Tice. It's going to be a great interview. Don't miss this. And join us, because they are going to share with us how to keep it fresh after many years together.
That was such a fun conversation that we had with them. I'm really excited to have people listen to it. And I hope that, and I think you'll have as much fun as we did, and also gain some insight from it. But it was a very fun conversation. Yep. Always enjoy the time we get to spend talking with them. Mm-hmm. Thanks for joining us today for this family meeting. Have a great week, everybody. This meeting is adjourned.
All right. That's it for us today. I hope that you have an awesome day planned ahead of you. Maybe today you just need to turn off this YouTube and you need to go cry into a pillow because your child is about to go off to college. I don't know.
Well, here's what I want to ask all of you who are out there. What did we leave off the list? What did we miss that our kids need to know before they go off to college? And you're like, hey, that was a great list and you covered a lot of good things. But, man, what about this right here? I think it's important that our young people understand this. I'd love to be able to hear those things from you and have that conversation on YouTube there with you. So let us know, and I'll see you in the comments. So long.